Hi, welcome to the Pam Goodwin Show. I am so excited about our guest today. She is an author, a blogger, a podcaster, a TV host, and with more than 40 years of experience as a fitness instructor. She is passionate about helping people make a positive impact on their health and overall well being. And you may have heard of the Rockstar legend, Ted Nugent. That's her husband. I am thrilled to welcome our guest, Shemane Nugent. We're going to watch a quick video about her and we'll have her on the show shortly.
I've been a group fitness instructor since 1980. I'm an author, TV host, mom, wife, and dog mom. But I got sick and almost died from toxic mold exposure. I spent years researching alternative remedies instead of prescription drugs to cure myself, my husband, rocker Ted Nugent, and our son Rocco. I'll share what I've learned about healthy living and how to be happy in difficult times, some current events, and always end with something to make you smile. This is simply Shemane.
Welcome, Shemane. It's so nice to meet you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
I know you spend some time in Michigan and Texas. Where are you today?
I am in Texas.
Oh, good. Not too far away. I think you have. I've been watching lots of videos on you, and it looks like you have a fabulous ranch here in Texas. So how exciting. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I know we have some mutual friends from the wonderful women from Women's Leadership Live with Linda McMahon. There's a picture, Linda McMahon and Debbie Saviano and Stacy Shefflin and you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so happy to be a part of Women's Leadership Live.
I know I've been a part of Women's Leadership Live, and that was actually back, this past March, and was the first event that I had to miss. I was actually, hate to say, I was going through chemo, so I wasn't able to make that and meet you, but being part of Women's Leadership Live is just wonderful. And I know that they were going on a tour this year, and so hopefully they'll pick that back up. But just wanted to, watching some of the videos about you, just wanted to share with our audience where you grew up and a little bit about yourself.
Well, first I have to say, how are you feeling now?
I am feeling wonderful. I'm on a mission to, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I'm on a mission like you're on a mission with health. Mine wasn't, it wasn't genetic, so it was environmental. So I'm on this huge health kick too, and I really look forward to talking to you with that. But yeah, for November, the month of November, I was able to walk 121 miles. I'm back to my fitness, and I love it. And that's why I'm thrilled to have you on, because I know you're really, you're on a mission too. But thank you so much for asking.
Well, that's awesome, and congratulations. For those of you who don't know in your audience, that I had pre-emphysema from toxic mold exposure in my home that was once featured on MTV Cribs. And I was diagnosed with having pre-emphysema, and I almost died. And I think for me, when I lost my health, but I was lucky enough to get it back, I feel unstoppable a little bit.
That's great. I know it is. Sometimes it takes something huge like that, a big impact in your life, to make a difference. So
it certainly does.
I'd like to hear more about that. But tell us, did I read that you're at one point a tomboy and a cheerleader?
Oh yeah. I grew up a tomboy. I have an older brother, and I wanted to do everything that he did. So of course I was outdoors all day long. Back when we were growing up, there were no cell phones. And there was one phone in the whole household, and you had to have a long extension cord to get on it. But we were outdoors all day long growing up in Michigan. And I used to race motocross. My brother raced motocross, so of course I wanted to too. And I love being outdoors. And I also was a cheerleader. I was in gymnastics. I was a competitive swimmer. I was a state champion twice in swimming. And yeah, I pretty much did everything. And I think that's, that is one of the keys to my overall health consciousness now is that I know what it's like to be healthy, and I know what it's like to be unhealthy, and being healthy is way better.
Right. I can I can attest to that. It's much better to be healthy. And that's funny you're in motocross. My younger brother was in motocross, and he was also a huge Ted Nugent fan. And I think part of the reason, I mean, besides he's a great rocker and my brother loves the drums and guitar, but our dad's name is Ted. So
Ah, there you go.
and I grew up, we're close to the same age, grew up in the 80s. But I know you have a BA in radio and TV and film and also metaphysics, which is really interesting. And I didn't really quite know what that was. But what made you go off to get your master's in that?
Well, part of it was because I got sick. I went to dozens of different doctors. I had debilitating migraines, and I was hospitalized several times a year. I went to experts, world-renowned migraine specialists, and all they could do is just give me more medication. And I realized that, there was an incredible connection between the mind and the body. And I grew up having pretty thin skin. I really worried about what other people thought of me and said to me. And if somebody said something negative, I hung on to that. And there was no question a physiological reaction that I knew was causing more stress in my life. And one doctor, I'll never forget this, after I had married Ted, he had given me, back when we had audio cassette tapes, he had given me a bunch of audio cassettes with nature sounds. And he said, go into a room and close the door and listen to these nature sounds on tape. And I thought, well, that's dumb. Why don't I just go outside? Why don't I just go hunting? And what I learned, I didn't grow up in a hunting family, but what I learned was sitting out in a tree stand for hours and hours with, again, no cell phones years ago, but a book, or just watching the birds and watching a squirrel jump from treetop to treetop, or beautiful fall leaves in the Michigan autumn spiraling down to the forest floor. That's exactly the effect that I needed. And I realized it was such a calming thing that I wanted to do more. I wanted to find out more about it. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do a lot of research about metaphysics and the mind-body connection, I might as well get a degree out of the deal. So I did do an online program. For whatever it's worth, I don't plan on really doing much with this metaphysical degree other than to help myself and other people who struggle with some of the same issues.
Wow, that's great. I know I've recently, with this pandemic or corona going on, have become a nature buff myself. So on my walks, I'm taking pictures of turtle, and I actually named him Teddy the Turtle. So every time I walk or run by him, I think of my dad and the turtle. But it's funny how nature, maybe I feel like the older I get, nature is more important, but it has done so much on the healing too. I also wanted to talk to you about, not many women hunt, and I've seen some of the pictures. My dad, I'm originally from Nebraska, from Omaha, and he did a ton of hunting. And so I see the animals in your backdrop, and my mom still has those in her basement. And now today, our older son, who's 21, has just really gotten into bow and arrow. So I told him to look up some of your husband's tours. So that's a goal of his. But how did you get into hunting? It sounded like you growing up in Michigan, but it sounded like prior to meeting Ted. Is that correct?
No, I wasn't raised in a hunting family. I knew nothing about hunting or rock and roll for that matter. That's a whole nother topic. When I met Ted, being a tomboy and being an outdoors person, it just kind of fit for me to embrace this hunting lifestyle that he had. And we truly live off the land. And it was interesting for me that, when I was growing up and when Ted and I got married, I was only 26 years old. So I didn't really know that much about him or rock and roll. And friends of mine thought it was interesting that here I'd married this rock and roll hunter, And I didn't, to be honest with you, I wasn't a fan of rock and roll. And I've written about that before, but I do appreciate it. I love it. I love the energy and effort, and I love his music that he puts out. But this was all such a new thing to me, but it made so much sense. And I thought, wow, if I'm going to go buy grass-fed, whatever it is, as hunters, and I'm an archer as well. I hunt with a bow and arrow. I basically hunt with a sharp stick. Can you imagine how healthy we would be if each of us could only rely on a bow and arrow hunting with a sharp stick for our sustenance? Not only would we would be more calm and patient, because that's what you have to do when you are outdoors and you're basically in a deer's backyard, in their living room. They know every leaf, they know every blade of grass, and they can peg you. It's like, you sit in a tree stand. I'm sure you've heard stories about this if you don't hunt. You sit in a tree stand and you don't move. You just relax, and it's very peaceful. And they seem to know exactly where you are. They can peg you with your smell. So you have to be very adept. And I've been shooting a bow and arrow for a long, long time. But now, especially with the pandemic, I'm proud to be a hunter. I wasn't always. And in fact, I never would have done an interview like this with white-tailed deer in the background prior to 2020, I think. But now with the pandemic, I think it's become way more acceptable for hunters to be more outspoken, because I got to tell you, our lives didn't change a bit during the quarantine. We're not going to starve if anything happens. And I think more people, there's a growing number of women especially, who want to go back to our roots and to live off the land and be more self-sufficient.
I know. I love that. Have you ever considered having a women's retreat? We'll have to get together and have a retreat, and you can show us how to do you offer that, the bow and arrow?
What? I did that years ago, and on my YouTube page, it's youtube.com/Shemane, and it's SHEMANE. If you search in that on my what do they call it, a page? If you search on my YouTube channel for Queen of the Forest, I did a reality show about 18 years ago. I think it was just too early. We've been doing a show on Outdoor Channel for about 30 years. It's a hunting show that I co-host with Ted. We've been doing this for a long time. And I realized that there were a lot of women who didn't hunt. So what I decided to do is I took women who didn't hunt and women who hunted, and I put them together, because the only way you're going to find out about something is if you have the experience for yourself. And there's not always a lot of options for women who, like you just said, hey, I want to try hunting. How do I do that? So I did that reality show, and you know what? I also had a 501c3, a charity called Queen of the Forest, and I took women on retreats, and I let it go, because if you're doing a charity event, I don't think it's right, especially for me, being in public eye. I didn't want to take any money, and I didn't want to pay any money. I had volunteers who helped me run the whole thing, and it was a lot of work, a lot of work. So I dissolved it. But maybe this is a new phase that we're all going through in life, and this is an opportunity for us to regroup and think about what's really most important, and how and where we get our sustenance is really important.
I love that. I'm ready to sign up. So if you
Okay.
do a dual health, we'll do some Zumba, and we'll do some bow and arrow, and we'll go hunt our food. I think that would be great. I would love that.
Awesome.
So let's plan it. That would be perfect for 2021. And
Yes.
the other thing, I know you've written several books, and we have your book here, The 4 Minutes to Happy. I would love, for you to 4 minutes of happy, and be happier and healthier in your life. Live the life of your dreams. I love that. If you could share some little tidbits of that. 4 minutes. I love that.
Well, that really came to me. It was God speaking to me. I had wanted to write about my illness and and how I cured myself with alternative remedies, or what we now call functional medicine, like infrared sauna, vitamin IV, and oxygen. I've been doing that for 20 years. And now it's becoming, the latest, greatest thing. But I wanted to write about it, and I was going to call it 50 is the New 30 for way back when I turned 50, almost a decade ago. And the book never came out of me. I was just too busy, life got in the way. And one night I went to bed and I just said my prayers like I do every night. And I asked God for guidance. And I said, I really wanted to turn this tragic situation that happened to me, how I got sick and nearly died, and the home that, if you ever search for Ted Nugent MTV Cribs home, that home no longer stands. We actually demolished that home. I could tell you a lot about mold. In fact, I'm also producing a documentary about that. But we destroyed the home, we demolished it, and we also lost our health. So I wanted to share this story because I know that toxic mold affects a lot of people and they may not even know it. Every day I get messages from people asking, I think I've been exposed, what should I do? So I decided I'm working on a documentary about that, but I wanted to take that experience and write a book, and it just never came out of me. So the next morning after I said that prayer to God, asking for guidance, the next morning before I even opened my eyes, I had the words coming to me for the name of the book. And I had this vision about, it's not just about toxic mold, or it's not just about getting in shape at a certain age. It's about all of those things. And I had the words 4 minutes to happy in my mind from God. And I thought, wow, this is even better. I can reach more people about little things that we all can do in the pockets of our time to be healthier, happier, and to live the life of our dreams.
I love that. That is wonderful. I know you've written another book on the other, what it's like to be married to a rock star.
Yeah, the other thing in my life.
I've watched some of the videos of you two together, and you've been married going on, what, 31 years, or is that correct?
Going on 32.
32 years.
Every year matters, girlfriend.
I know. What is your secret? I've been married 23 years, and so what's your secret of I love I think one thing I was surprised, well, I don't know if surprised, but when you hear a rock and roll legend and all that, it's great that he always highlights his 71 years of being sober and clean. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, there's a lot of secrets. There's not just one secret to a long marriage. We've had our fair share of ups and downs, and I wrote about it in my book called Married to a Rock Star. And I should come out with the second version because that one was about 20 years ago I wrote that, long time ago. Lots happened since then, let me tell you. But I think that it took me a long time to find my voice and my identity, because especially when you're married to somebody who's in the public eye, who's very influential, no matter if it's a doctor, an attorney, whatever, an electrician who's at the top of his game, it's very difficult to keep your own identity in a relationship. At least it was for me. And I've talked to a lot of women who have had that too. Fortunately, I've always loved to teach group fitness classes, and I kept that going, but it took me a long time to be able to find my voice. And can you imagine how difficult it would be to say to Ted Nugent, take out the trash?
That's funny. Next
yeah,
time,
but I think that, and another thing is that are you aware of the term she shed?
Yes.
Okay. I have
just from the commercials.
Yeah, me too. I have a she shed in Florida, and we've spent a lot of time apart, not months at a time, but a week or a few days here and there. And of course, when he was on tour, we spent a lot of time apart. And I think that's important too, to be able to have some time to yourself. I value that so much. I got to tell you.
I know, looking at, your life and career, just really from the videos and getting to know you, you have done a lot. And I have a question. What is on your bucket list to still accomplish?
Well, a few things, but one thing that I'm doing right now actually too is writing a novel. And you are the first to hear. This is the first time I've ever announced it publicly. It's been something that's been on my bucket list. I wrote a novel before and I've written many books, and I was actually in the process. I have about 50,000 words for another book on healthy aging. And I thought, everybody keeps asking me, what do I do? I'm 58 and I'm not afraid to say it. I love life. I've had a lot of hardships that I've endured, compared to some doesn't even count on the Richter scale. But I've learned a lot about how to stay happy and healthy, and I wanted to write a book about that. So I started writing, and I thought in the back of my mind, someday I want to write a novel. And I picked up a book by Carrie Obermeyer, and it's called Unhackable, and I think it's actually coming out this week. And I thought, you know what? That's exactly what I'm doing to myself. I'm hacking myself by writing this other book, by doing these other things. I need to be unhackable. And ever since I came to terms with that, I've been getting up every morning, even before 5, like 4:45, on my own. I get so excited and I write for about 3 hours. I let the dogs out, take the dogs for a walk, and I write for a couple more hours. I've already got that's just been the past week. And I've got about 10,000 words, but it's flowing out of me, and I couldn't be happier.
Oh, good. So when can we expect to read your first novel?
Well, hopefully soon. I'll let you know.
Oh, good. Look forward to that. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And how can the viewers get a hold of you? I'll have everything posted on the YouTube and all the social media, but I know you're online and your podcast that you have, Simply Shemane. You can listen to that and find you on your website, social media.
Yep, I'm here, there, and everywhere. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/Shemane.Nugent. It's the one with the blue check. On Twitter, it's just Shemane Nugent, and Instagram, it's just Shemane Nugent. And I'm also, YouTube, it's just Shemane, and I'm also now on Parler as well.
That's great. Well, stay healthy. You look amazing. You're beautiful. And thank you again so much. I look forward to hopefully soon getting together with the Women's Leadership Live. So look forward to seeing you at that event, if not sooner, or next year for your women's retreat that you're planning.
Sounds good.
Thanks a lot, Shemane.
All right. Thanks for having me. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you too.